So today we're going to be working on our firewood basket. And what this is I'm not sure if this was someone that just made this or what, but it's a pretty handy little tool that you can hook onto the back of a tractor. And what we use it for is we go inside the 4-acre paddocks for the pigs. And when we have trees that need to come out or trees that are dying so they don't fall in the electric fence, we can get the tractor in there because it's a lot narrower than a truck, and then cut the trees down and load this full of firewood and get it out of the pig pens. The problem is when you abuse it like I did and put much too heavy things in there, it gets damaged. And so you can tell the whole thing has bent to the side there. So what we're going to try to do is get this thing to where it's flatter. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be flat enough to where the firewood's not going to roll out of there if we try to stack it higher than the guardrails. And so we're going to go and try to fix this thing as cheaply as possible without, having to buy a new one. So we'll get this thing cleaned up, get it hooked on the tractor, get it on and get it back into the barn and see what we can do. All right, so we got it hooked up to the tractor. And as you can see, we have a slight problem. And number one is that support. And so I'm hoping if we cut that out, this will allow it to kind of bend back. But that's going to be the challenge, is trying to bend this back is going to be an issue, because the way the 3-point works is that it can only have tension kind of pulling up the way that, so you can pull it up. So that's our issue, is that if we tied this thing down, we can make it worse, but there's no way to hook this thing upside down to use the 3-point to pull it straight. So it's going to be an adventure. All right, on a side note, I wanted to tell you guys about spring here in North Carolina. This place is incredibly beautiful. The greenery is awesome. But if you can see where the door to the barn stops and starts, pollen season is an actual season here. So I don't know if you can tell, everything is just kind of green, but man, pollen season is real. And if you guys are thinking about coming to North Carolina, be aware there's a couple weeks that are hard on people that suffer from allergies. All right, we got it to the sawhorses, and most of these supports are broken, or bent, not broken. This guy is the main culprit, but we have these bins here that you can see. So I think these aren't attached, but no, I think they actually are attached. I don't know. We might just take and cut these supports at the bending points, cut them, and then re-gusset them, weld it together. But as far as the flatness we're going to try to go for, we just want it to be sawhorse flat. And that's our goal for this project. Watch stuff, the sparks in the air, look though. Oh, I was backwards. Boom. So it's feels better. I think that this is good, but I think this is our problem child right here. And it's going to be tricky to get in there with the grinder just because when I flex it, you can see how it's opening these up, but I can't get in there just the head of the grinder. So I'm going to try to come up with a different way to do this. And I might do a couple more cuts here because it feels like this is opening up, but I think if we did it there too. So we're getting closer. You can see how we're almost there. But all right, let's get back to grinding somehow. All right, so I think we got this thing as close as it's going to get. It's, had to do a lot of cutting. It's not going to be perfectly straight, but like I said, this thing is just for firewood and hauling logs and stuff out of the pig pens behind the tractor. We're going to take another bracket here, and we're going to kind of put that in tension, tack it, and we should be good. We're going to put another strong back on this and maybe a couple of more on that just to kind of give it some strength. Once we get that done, then we'll work on loosening these up to get this thing back to straight-ish. It's just this thing got so twisted that, yeah, we're gonna have to do quite a bit of work, but we're getting closer. It's it's not perfectly flat, just sawhorse flat. Another thing to tell you guys on is when you're doing a lot of cutting with the wheels, the abrasive wheels, is try to use all your gear. Try to use eye protection, face masks, gloves, leather aprons, because if you don't do that, you're going to probably have to explain to your wife that you burned a hole through your good shirt and explain to her why you weren't wearing your work shirt. So just a word of advice. Well, we're gonna have to do some build up here. That is So we got support done. Pretty gross welding, but it's pretty good for a basket. So the next thing we're going to try to get done is this cross support here. We had enough metal to do just this support and this. So our plan is to weld this to the basket and then tack the existing support that got bent to the new support. And then I think what we're gonna do is just on some of these, we might just backfill them with weld. It's not the right, kind of not the right way to do it, but I think all that went out the window a while back with this repair. So let's get this welded up and move on. All right, that's pretty much it. I think it'll hold. A couple things that I should have done better. I should have spent a little more time cleaning up this older metal. I should have cleaned that all off. I should have cleaned more of this off of the new metal, but I think it'll hold. So that's pretty much, that support's done. This support's done. I think we'll spend a little time filling these up just to kind of keep them so they don't, you know, stress crack any more than they already have. And then I think we'll turn this thing back over, work on that pipe, and I think we should be good to get it back in service. Well, that's about it. Got the welding done. It's okay. I would give it a solid 5 out of 10 on the welding. But I think it's going to be strong enough to hold the firewood, at least as much as our little tractor will do it. So, yeah. Hopefully you guys will get to see it in action out in the pig pens here. And yeah, thanks for watching.